The big advertising pivot. This is the focus group.
This is the Focus Group with business insiders Tim Bennett and John Nash.
I fought worse monsters than you for years in Hollywood. I know how to win the hard way.
We're all business, except when we're not.
Don't f with me, fellas! This ain't my first time at the rodeo.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. I'm sitting in Rittenhouse Square, in case you don't notice that. A friend of ours who's an artist had painted this backdrop, and I thought I would try to use it. So thanks to Matt Hellier for the painting. And please be sure to join us every Wednesday here at 1 p.m. East. We're on Facebook Live, and we're also on YouTube. We stream on our channel there, which is all labeled Focus Group Radio. So how are you today, Mr.
I'm
Nash?
doing good. And, normally we would be leery of this particular day back in April because guess what today is?
Is it the day before? Oh, it's tax day.
It's tax day. And how...
God, I forgot.
Of course.
Oh, my gosh.
So is the whole world. How weird is it that we don't even think about tax day? There's not. I haven't seen one article on the news, or I haven't read an article or seen a report about how to prepare your taxes or get to the post office. Does anybody care?
You're exactly right. There's no years ago we had H&R Block as a big sponsor. We did all kinds of advertising and work right before April 15th. But you're exactly right. I've seen zero tax advertising, which, by the way, in our opening, we teased that there's the big advertising pivot. So one of our listeners from Fort Worth sent John a note and said, you guys like to hear your input on what's going on with advertising since the event. So later on in the show, during Shop Talk, if you want to fast forward, we will be talking about our advertising there. Before it caught my eye and before the birthday.
Yeah, so tax day. For you and me, we've taken care of this a while ago, and it's going to be done electronically. But my God, it's such a changed world that we wouldn't be all our hair is on fire. It's tax time.
I've never. Well, who likes taxes, right? They're the necessary evil, but it is just so complicated, and I know it keeps a lot of people employed. If you think about the amount of people that work at the IRS. And then work for all these tax prep services and accountants and everything else. But wouldn't it be so much easier? Does the rest of the world have such a complicated system, or do you just say you made some money and 10% or 5% or 20%, whatever it is, goes back to the kitty, and that's it?
I'm not sure how much more complicated it is in other countries, but I do remember at the start of the current administration, there was this thing where someone held up like a 4x5 card and said, "This is the new tax return." And I think when they put it up near the camera, the type was like 6 or 7 point. You could barely read it because we have a very complex system. It's the standard deduction or it's itemized deductions. It depends on, how your year went. It's very complicated. And I still think, even though people think we pay too much in taxes, in terms of the other Western democracies, we're pretty low on the totem pole in terms of how much we pay.
We're low, but they make up for it with socking us with health care. So
the hidden tax.
Hidden tax. Well, all other countries, health care is either socialized or it's taken care of. They take care of their people. Think about if you didn't have to pay health care every month, which is almost as much as most people's mortgages.
Yeah.
So it's an expensive endeavor.
You're 100% right. If you're a husband and wife and you're buying your own coverage on the exchange, I think you could be paying $1,000 to $1,800, depending on that bronze, silver, or gold standard, right?
Right. Then you have a family, and it just goes downhill from there. So what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, for me, Trader Joe's caught my eye in a funny way. Well, you and I love Trader. In fact, to anybody listening, Tim turned me on to Trader Joe's years ago, and he also turned me on to Aldi, which I think they're same company, right?
Supposedly, or they were at one time. It's kind of like Aldi was the budget version of Trader Joe's. It's all. What did we call it, John? The Marshalls of food.
The Marshalls of food.
If you see it at Trader Joe's, like it, get it, because it might not be there again.
There again. Yeah. So what caught my eye is a uniquely New York aspect of Trader Joe's, and that is the city's very dense, and there's a Trader Joe's on Columbus Avenue. And during the height of the event, people would line up for hours to get in, and the line would snake around the block, and it would go in front of brownstones and people's apartment buildings. And so one apartment building was getting super tired of listening to people on the line. Now, they weren't talking to each other. They were talking to, everybody else on their phones, or they were doing text messaging or whatever it could be. So these neighbors decided to do something about it. And it's two husbands, Kyle and Ash Folk, Fulk. They began writing down the conversations and then putting them on big pieces of paper with, a magic marker and hanging them out the window. So you would see things like, Chad, we are so sorry your wife is leaving you, and we are sure the everything but the bagel seasoning will help you, but is this really the place to discuss it? Love, hashtag Trader Joe's line, Upper West Side. And they would always end with a product from Trader Joe's that you could get. Like, Claire, we don't think you should be bragging that you don't watch the news and your parents think New York City is like some sort of war zone. It is not. We are New York strong. We do, however, appreciate your double mask while you're in for your groceries, since you're like 6 feet away. Might we suggest you pick up the reduced guilt spinach and kale Greek yogurt dip? XOXO Trader Joe's line. And, even on what I'm showing here on the screen, actually, there's a guy holding a sign that says, Chloe, while you're waiting to pick up some chickpea pasta, read up on how black trans women kicked off the Stonewall riots. Happy Pride! And we thank you. Or another one I have up on screen, which I'll close with, is, Bridget, I have to hang up. I'm in front of that building where they listen and put what you say on a sign. And then she says, I'm sure it will just fall off. I will get the maca powder, oat milk, and chia seeds. Now hang up.
That's brilliant. I love that idea.
Yeah, of just
yeah, that's a fun idea. Is that something you would have come up with, or would you have not? You might have thought about it. I don't know. Would you have done it?
I think no. I would have done. So the beginning of the article talks about how they would yell out the window, "Please be quiet! You're driving us crazy." And one of them was like, "You're just going to give yourself a heart attack. It's exasperating." So that's when they came up with this thing of hanging stuff out the window, which I think is hysterical. And it's very New York, because people talk incessantly. And the fact that they're not talking to a neighbor or a friend online, or like they're making a new friend online, is just crazy, right?
Well, we've talked about that, particularly on trains or subways too, when people are having conversations that probably the rest of the people should not hear, right? Or if they're just very personal conversations, and it's like, do you realize where you are, and why are you talking about this stuff? You hear people fighting on phones or whatever, and they don't seem to take into account that there's other people around them listening. But
As if, and then there's this unspoken rule that we're not really supposed to pay attention.
Yeah,
but you remember the old days when you were waiting in line for a phone at a payphone?
Oh my gosh!
And well, let's think about that for a second. Remember how dirty those phones were? I never gave it a second thought. I would just pick it up. But
people's ears are filthy, right? People generally have filthy ears. And what I used to hate is when the receiver would still be warm against your ear. And then think about the mouthpiece. Remember how filthy the microphones were at SiriusXM? You were particularly in the bad spot, because you were where all the
main host was sitting in that chair.
The main host was sitting, and those mics stunk. I would go in every Saturday with Clorox and wipe them. I probably ruined the mics, but I would go in and douse those things with Clorox because they stunk so bad.
If you ever beat me to the studio, I could be assured that when I walked in, you had that Clorox thing out and you were wiping the counter down, and then you took a separate wipe and did the microphone.
Well, and I sat where Romaine sat too.
Well,
so
that was the
God
command
bless
seat.
Romaine.
That was the command seat.
There was command seat, but there was usually some sort of grease from a chip or something there too. There was all kinds of food
late
marks
night.
Because they were on late night and they would have their dinner, and so I know they did an okay job, I guess, wiping up or cleaning up, whether it was Katie or whoever was doing it. But I would have to go in and I would wipe every single thing down, and then I really doused the mics. But
Did you were
I don't
you
know.
did you ever go to the show when DNR was recording at night? Did you ever go, and were you ever a guest on the night, or was it a call in only? Because I've been there when they were, and there was
Yeah, I
pizza.
was never there.
I was there one
Never there
time
at
when
night.
ADD Jeff and they break open they open a cabinet that you and I used to always see, and in there was like a Scotch bottle and something else, and we laughed. I thought DNR's got it down.
I know we were probably the choir boys of that group.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Easily. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a good caught my eye. Mine this week is vastly different, and it caught my eye because I read about this and then I did some more research about it. And essentially what's happening is with realtors, and this is happening in Texas and in Illinois and a few other places, they are dropping the name master bedroom or master suite or master bathroom from their listings. I don't know. Have you heard about this?
Yes, I briefly did, but I didn't pursue it. And I put up your graphic that you gave me, Tim, of these ornate, crazy bedrooms. There's on the left. There's a picture of this bedroom with this more pillows than God, right? And red ceiling fan, and the bathroom is just as bad. How do you clean that bathroom? Anyway.
Well, it was really tacky house. You should have seen the rest of the house, and that house is on sale in Texas right now. I just pulled it up. I just typed in tacky master suite, and that's what came up. But yeah, isn't that a tacky place? But so what's happening is, so the Houston Realtor Association and then a number of other services across the country are getting away from using master suite, master bathroom, and they're changing it to either primary bedroom, primary bath. There's actually a company in Atlanta that started a few years ago calling it the owner's retreat or the owner's suite or the owner's bath. And they said they're doing this because there were some realtors and some people that felt that the term master was sexist or racist.
Okay.
I never thought about it. And they said a lot of people just never did think about it. And they said, but if a lot of these realtors associations said, if people feel uncomfortable with it, then we probably should do something about it. And so they've decided to make this change. They did say if you were an individual realtor and you were using marketing materials and you wanted to say it was a master bath or a master bedroom, you weren't going to get fined. You weren't going to get in trouble for doing it. But they were encouraging you to use a different name, whether it was primary or owners or main bedroom. They had said that they felt the name suggested that a white Anglo-Saxon male lived in that room.
Seriously.
So I never went that far. I don't know. Would you have gone that far? Maybe we're not. Maybe we're too close or too far away.
I think that's a good observation. We may, in fact, be too far away from it. And I also glanced at an article that said that a lot of people are now changing the language they use to describe circuits and electric. Like there's this whole thing about a master switch and a slave, like a leader and a follower. I could see where you might want to make an issue out of this. I don't take, especially with real estate listings, I would never take the master bedroom to be anything other than just the main bedroom. But
the main bedroom,
I guess the answer there is if you don't care about the word master bedroom and someone said primary bedroom, would you care?
No, you wouldn't. And that's what they were essentially saying. They said if some people feel the term master is derogatory or sexist or racist, why not just change it and make people feel more comfortable? But I guess I never felt uncomfortable about it, but I'm also a white Anglo-Saxon, so I guess I never thought too much about it. So somebody, obviously this journalist, this particular story came from Fast Company, but they said that the exact origins of the term master bedroom are often debated. And they showed up originally in 1925 in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, defined as a large or principal bedroom was what was the term master. And then as a secondary meaning, it also is defined as the male head of household or the owner of or employer of slaves or servants. So that's where the term debate has come from. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has determined, however, that the term master bedroom is not discriminatory. And if you use it, you're not violating any fair housing laws. What has happened, though, is there's a little bit of a slippery slope here, and according to the journalist, and this is probably where you were going as well. So the Court of Master Sommeliers, which grants the wine stewards the Master Sommelier title, they are now going to get rid of the master title, and they're just going to use the person's surname. So, You'll no longer be a master sommelier. I guess you'll just be a sommelier. And so then it said it begs to question what's going to happen to the Masters golf tournament, Oprah's online master classes, and a master's degree from a university. So they already said that GitHub. Am I saying this right? GitHub.
Oh yeah. You got that perfect. Yeah.
So they also, a big software developer, also are going to try to change their name. They had a master coding term called master, and they're looking for a new name for that. Harvard, they said, just remove the word master from its academic titles, and also change the names of house masters to faculty deans. So this is where.
Oh no! I know exactly where you're going. And by the way, one of the things you mentioned was the master class. There's a whole isn't there a website called Master Class?
Right, and then there's Oprah's. It's actually run by, according to this article. I didn't do research further, but they call it Oprah's Master Class. But it's essentially that online learning.
Yeah. And the idea there is that you're being trained by someone who is, top of their field. And I'm thinking of a master or an apprentice. An apprentice starts out at a certain level and they become and then how about the phrase master craftsman? That used to mean that you had achieved, you did your apprenticeship and you did your stuff and then you achieved this level of being a master craftsman, right? But I guess we can't, or is that now you're thinking that's on the chopping block?
Well, that's what they said. They said it's the three things the Masters golf tournament, which I believe was named after Masters insurance companies, but I could be wrong. But Masters were the kind of the grandmasters of golf, right? These were the men that were the top. I always think of that as being old, right? The Masters tournament was these old legends of golf. Mm-hmm. But Oprah's Masterclass, or if you went to get an MBA or a master's in English or a master's in communication or sociology or master's in business administration, are we going to just say now it's a advanced degree? I don't know. So it won't be a master's. Will it be an advanced degree in business?
Talk about being on what was that toy we had as a kid? The slip and slide?
Yes.
You step one foot on, you're down.
So that was what caught my eye.
All righty. I believe it's time for...
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So our business birthday today, July 15th, born in 1864, died December 15th in 1934 at age 70, is Maggie Lena Walker. Now, here's a great example. I'll just say this right up front. Maggie Lena Walker is a great example of somebody that probably 99% of the Americans have not learned about or know about. And so when I started reading about her, I thought, my gosh, these are the sort of people that we should be honoring. These are the sort of people that have changed Americans' lives, have changed people's lives, fought for equal rights. And these are the sort of statues that we should be having in the town square. So I'll just put that there. So she was an African-American teacher and businesswoman. She was the first woman of any race to charter a bank and serve as its president in the United States. And as a leader, she achieved success with the vision to make tangible improvements in the way of life for African-Americans and women. She was disabled later on in life and also became an example for people with disabilities. So she was born in Richmond, Virginia, 2 years after the end of the Civil War. And so when she was 14 years old, she joined something called the Order of St. Luke, which it said was a fraternal burial society established in 1867 in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland. And essentially what this group did is they ministered to the sick and the aged, but they promoted humanitarian causes and also encouraged individual self-help and integrity. So kind of pull yourself up by your bootstrings and take care of yourself. And for many years, she served in a number of capacities until she had the top position, which she held until she died. But as part of this is where the business aspect comes into her humanitarian efforts. So as being part of this group, in 1902, she began publishing the organization's newspaper. It was called the St. Luke Herald. And in there, she encouraged African Americans in Richmond to harness their economic power and establish their own institutions. So she always focused her efforts on accounting and math. Her first business endeavor was a community insurance company for women. And then from there, she continued her entrepreneurial pursuits and always was an ardent supporter of women. And she went on to found this bank, St. Luke Penny Savings
Now,
Bank.
what I'm showing on screen now, Tim, is some of these sepia tone photos you gave me, and there's
Yep.
the photo of her, and then the building of the bank. Is that her? That's her first bank, or was that the insurance company?
I
It's a
believe it was the
bank.
bank.
Okay.
And it was all housed there, and this was in
So that's
Richmond.
her building then. Okay.
Yeah. So they said she was the first woman of any race to charter a bank in the U.S., and she was also African American. So by default, right, also the first African American woman to start and charter a bank and also lead it as president. It said that the bank was a real powerful symbol and representation for African Americans, particularly in the segregated South. And said she not only attracted adults, but she also would appeal to children. So she always gave children that came in and outside that walked by banks, little piggy banks, to encourage them to save money.
That's great.
Right?
I love that. Right?
Isn't yeah. So her so in 1924, the savings bank had spread to other parts of Virginia, included more than 50,000 members. Many of the people in senior leadership roles were females. She also had many females as board members. Now, I think of this. This is 1924, right? And so while other banks collapsed during the Depression, the St. Luke's Penny Savings Bank survived. Later on, she agreed to serve as chairman, and her bank merged with two other Richmond banks to become the Consolidated Bank and Trust Company, which grew for several generations. And for Richmonders was one of the original African-American-owned institutions, and still in operation today. In 1928, she was forced into a wheelchair. She had some paralysis from diabetes. And even though she was limited in her movement, she still fought for civil rights, still fought for women's rights, and as I said, became a great example for people living with disabilities. She died December 15th, 1934. And so they made her house a National Historic Site. She's had numerous honors. There's a high school in Richmond named after her. Junior Achievement has honored her with awards. Virginia has put her as one of the top women in Virginia history. So there's just a number of awards, and then of course the final one, which you probably have the picture of,
Statue.
is in 2017 they put a big statue of Walker unveiled on Broad Street right in Richmond. It's a 10-foot statue that depicts her and the way she lived. They said she always had her glasses pinned to her lapel and a checkbook in her hand.
And a checkbook in her hand.
And a checkbook in her hand. So as I said earlier, this I never heard of her. I don't know if you have. Somebody that we never learned about, Maggie Lena Walker. I'm sure that if you took an African American history class, you probably knew about her. But here's somebody that did such great stuff. And these are the sort of statues I think we should have in the town square, not some treasonous Confederate soldier. But that's a sidebar.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. What a super cool business birthday. And that's the kind of thing you do want to celebrate. And that's why you said, here's a statue that deserves to be made, right? I think it's great.
It's great. I was reading about the artist and everything, and it was really cool about the unveiling of the statue. There were a bunch of pictures of. They had a lot of kids that were that attended her high school. Looked like the UN, kids of all different shades, shapes, and sizes. But it was, they were celebrating her life and celebrating her, and it was quite the celebration to put that statue up in Richmond. So, kudos to the people of Richmond for honoring Maggie Lena Walker.
I think it's fantastic. Excellent business birthday. Okay, so we're going to take a super quick break here, and when we return, we have a little shop talk for you about the pivot of advertising during, and I do the air quotes, the event. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Been in business a week. I got more money than I know what to do with.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
Herrera Rocher. He is doing well.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. As he teased when we went out to our break, we had a listener in Fort Worth that had sent us a note and wanted to know what we thought about what was going on with the advertising pivot that's happening during the event. We all know what the event is, as John did his air quotes and a wink, wink, nod, nod.
We can't say the real thing; it gets dinged.
Can't say it. We get dinged. We get taken off of social media. Meanwhile, Donald Trump can do whatever he wants. Now this will get us dinged, but we can't mention something, nothing, the event. So there it is. So we picked. You want to tell us a little bit about the letter from our Fort Worth listener?
This is what his
note asked you.
Fort Worth listener and fan. And if you've been watching the show for a while, this is one of our fans who is also a devotee of providing us with Oreos to sample. I think you saw in his note, Tim, that he said, I'm not going to be sending any Oreos for a while because he's, sheltering in place and doesn't want to do the post office or any of that stuff. Someday those cookies will be coming our way again. But he said basically in his note, what do you think of the pivot? And he believes that some brands have done better than others. So I have a bunch of logos up on the screen right now. The ad campaign that he actually referenced off the bat was for the Wynn Hotel Group, Encore, the Las Vegas group.
Right.
Tim was going to talk about some ads from Facebook and Budweiser, and I was going to look at some from Seamless and Progressive. But the Wynn Resort Group put out depending on the edit you see, it could be 30 seconds or almost 2 minutes long, talks about how they, as a corporation, they supported all their employees. They made sure that everybody was getting a paycheck through the entire these last several months. And it was really, and they showed all their associates from people who were front of house, at the service desk, or someone who would greet you at a restaurant, all the way to housekeeping. And at the very end of this Wynn ad, it's like, and now we want to welcome you back because Nevada was open for some stuff, and so is Vegas. So I thought it was a really nice way of showing corporate culture, corporate giving back, and it just gave you a nice feeling about that whole hotel group. Did you watch it at all, Tim?
I did, and it was funny because the after I watched that and after we talked about the advertising pivot, I started poking around, and I actually found somebody who did an opinion piece, which I thought was funny. And I think probably the ads you picked and probably the ads I picked probably all fell into this. But they said that this ad person, and I don't have his name off the top of my head or her name, but essentially said they felt all the advertising lately has fallen into 4 stages. And they said there was this kind of confused and muddled approach in the beginning. Then we were mournful and empathetic. Then we were resolute, and now we're antsy for it to all end.
It sounds like they did anger, denial, compromise, acceptance, right? Like the stages of grief.
And then they said, and within that, all this advertising fell into other sorts of themes, which was very 9/11-ish.
Yeah.
They said there was the emotional tug on the heartstrings. We're here for you, we care, you can count on us. And then you go into the God bless our heroes, which would be the healthcare professionals and all these people that are working for us in the grocery stores and so forth. And then the empowerment part of, we've got this. Or and now they said it's very much into the category of we're clean and we're back.
So get off your tuchus.
We're clean. Come by. So I laughed about that because the 2 ads that I had picked that you mentioned, both Facebook and I picked one for Budweiser. And I also later on, after we did our notes, I picked one for Toyota because I thought Toyota, kind of typical Toyota, covered 2 or 3 of these themes all in one. But do you want me to tell you about the
please. So your
first 2 I picked? So I took some notes here. So there's a 60-second spot from Facebook that's been out, and it's called Cheers for the Front Line. And what they did is it's a 60-second spot. It tugs at your heartstrings. And it tries to place Facebook as a what they call it, a beacon of positivity. They got a lot of BS from listeners or from people who watched it because they how the ad is set up. It looks like they're actual posts from people,
okay,
and people that work in healthcare, and people that the FedEx driver, or people that are doing delivery and grocery stores, and warehouse people, sort of thing, transportation. But they said the actual posts are not real, that they use some stock footage and whatever, but tried to make them feel they were real. I thought that was a little bit
I would have liked
kind of
real
rough on Facebook.
I would have liked real better, and I would imagine they could have pulled real, right?
Well, they said the difficulty has been, in the very beginning, you couldn't get in to do editing and editing suites and get a lot of this stuff done.
Yes.
So they worked with what they had. Essentially, they kind of cobbled together things from what they had. But I thought the commercial was well done until I read the counterpoint about it of people calling BS on it of not being necessarily real. But the ending of the ad says more together, especially now. And that was kind of their theme. The Budweiser ad was, again, a very emotional one and harkened back, I thought, and then when I read the critique of it, the person who critiqued it felt the same way I did. But the ad is "Together we will run again," and essentially is the Clydesdale horses, very similar again to the 9/11 ad, where remember the horses left St. Louis and they ended up
in Jersey
looking over at the World
Liberty
Trade Center.
Park or something, right? And they looked over at where the World Trade
Right.
Center was. Yeah.
Well, this is the same thing again. The horses are leaving St. Louis. They're kind of out of the barn. They run by the arch. They run over the George Washington Bridge. Then they're out in the plains somewhere. They're in the snow. They're in the desert. And then it says "Together." So essentially it's saying, "Together we will all run again. Stay with us. We'll get together again soon. We'll all run together again." And so I thought it was well done. And then the one that I pulled after we had talked was one from Toyota that I just saw it was last night. And it was for Toyota service. So at the dealerships, so they're going for Toyota service. And I thought this one was hilarious because it was almost as if they read this ad because essentially they said, "We're here for you. We're clean and you can count on us."
Boom, boom, boom.
They hit all three. We're here.
We're clean.
We're
You count
clean,
on us.
and you can count on us. We're here to serve you. So I thought in typical Toyota fashion, they're keeping all bases covered, and
Smartly.
that was the theme of the advertising. And I saw one from Uber too that did sort of the same thing. The takeaway was no mask,
Right,
no ride.
and we did our part. You do yours. That was one that I was going to talk about actually on the
Was it?
side because so our
So which ones did you like?
So our listener in Fort Worth, who provided this story idea and the example of the Wynn Hotel Group or the Resorts Group, that falls into this category of the brand saying we're aware, we're taking care of our people, and you could imagine, and since Tim and I have done this for a living, being in the room where someone says, "What do you think the ad should be about? What do we have to say as the Wynn Hotel Group?" And I think they did a great job. I looked at a couple of companies who did not necessarily make commentary on what was going on or provide like we're here for you, like, we're going to get through this together is one of these things we hear a lot. Instead, I think they just took their creative beats from literally what was happening in real time. So one of the companies, do you have Seamless down by you, or is this more of an urban thing? Seamless is like a food delivery company.
I've not heard of it. No.
Yeah, so they have a bunch of restaurants that can subscribe. You can order through one app called Seamless to a number of restaurants, and then the food gets delivered to your door. So as you said a moment ago, there's been limited access to editing suites and to post-production facilities and production in general. So you have to use what you got. And this commercial is put together with iPhone video, and it's all examples of people being happy and thankful that someone delivered from a restaurant, and it shows examples of the food being left at the door and someone opening the door and waving to the delivery guy who's like more than 6 feet away, and "Did you get your tip?" and "Thank you so much, you made our night." So it's just literally a reflection of the time we were in and still are, and I thought that was kind of smart because it wasn't a commentary. It was just like, this is the reality. We're still delivering. We're providing food for you. And we're going to keep doing that. And Progressive was another brand that I looked at because Progressive picked up on the Zoom thing. A lot of people picked up on the whole multi-screen people talking. But they did, of course, with Progressive, there's always a joke or there's something funny going on. So Flo's trying to, they have a bunch of them where at the one end, Flo's like, "Can you see me?" And her whole face is covering the camera. So I like that. And then Google did a similar thing to Facebook where they basically took a lot of the services that people advertise on Google platforms and stitched that together into a little story of how things are still getting done and we're moving forward and we'll adapt and we'll change. And then everybody else falls into different categories. Bob was noticing a mattress ad the other day that we've seen hundreds of times. And Bob goes, wait a minute. Did you see that? And I said, they digitally put masks on people that were testing out the mattresses. So they're like, oh, we have this old footage, but hey, all these people are standing around. It's not. But isn't that amazing how quickly this has evolved? And if you're a creative at an agency and you are struggling to work with a client who wants to have an updated message or something, that you're struggling with a really hard problem. You can't shoot new stuff. And I like the mattress company. Well, what do you think we should do? Well, we could go into post and have someone put masks on the people. I mean, it's just.
Well, they said that, and that's the benefit with auto companies when they did lots of what they called running footage, which means there's just half an hour or so of footage of the cars just going through their paces with kind of an anonymous person. You don't even see the inside in some cases. But that's where this stuff would come in, because you're exactly right. One of the criticisms or one of the challenges that all these advertisers have is we can't go out and shoot stuff.
Yeah.
So you can't go out to Los Angeles and start shooting in a studio or get all the sound and the production done. So it's become a challenge unless you can do it internally. I'm glad you brought up the Google one. I love that Google advertising. The one question I always have about Google is I wonder why they advertise.
Because they're so big and it's so ubiquitous, right?
Right. I mean, I don't know. Did you ever question why they would advertise?
I do all the time. When your brand is synonymous with an action, Google it.
Right.
And how many times did you used to see back in the day ads from Xerox? Xerox it, right? I mean,
right.
You
go buy a Kleenex. Have you ever seen Kleenex advertised? I haven't seen Kleenex.
Yeah, and
get me a Kleenex.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's over near the Xerox machine. I don't know. We don't have any. We'll just find out where they
Google it. It's so true,
it's right near the Xerox machine. Right near the Xerox. You still say that. Make a Xerox.
Make a Xerox.
Me. Really?
So you have a great point about that. And the other thing that have you seen any Apple advertising? I have not, actually. And they normally only do it around the release of certain products, like when I got my new iPhone, the iPhone SE. Well, it's their new low-end phone, but it came out a while ago. But other than that, nothing.
I did see a digital ad from them, and I scratched my head because I thought it was trying a little too hard. And I'll do it a disservice by trying to explain it. But essentially, it was somebody was trying to either FaceTime or whatever you do with the trying to contact somebody.
Yeah,
FaceTime, and it was. I just thought it fell flat. It to me looked like it was forced Black Lives Matter advertising.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was disingenuous. I just didn't quite understand what they were trying to do. And I remember it popped up I was online and it popped up as an ad. I thought, oh, Apple, because again, like you just said, you don't really see a lot of Apple advertising. And I looked at it and I thought, what are they doing here? Like it just seemed to be kind of out of left field.
Yeah.
It was off brand. To me, it felt off brand. You can do an inclusion or a diversity ad without being off brand. And to me, it felt off-brand.
Well, if you were back in your role of director of marketing, and let's say it was a different product than a car, and cars have a automobile category can advertise all year long, and they could vary that, like you said with the Toyota ad, or if we have local dealers who are doing ads, like if you have to wait for your car to be serviced, we have a safe room, like a like a safe house, a safe room for you. But if someone approached me, let's say you came to me and said, hey, as agency, we want to do a new 30-second spot. We think it's important to be out there right now. What do you think the message should be? That's why I think you chose some great examples, and I think mine are good examples of either playing off the event in the sense of behaviors, like that whole Zoom thing is a behavior and it's a way we're connecting. Or do you go out and make a statement like the Wynn Hotel Group did and basically said, look how well we're treating our staff and our employees. They're our family. I don't know that there's anything in between, right?
Yeah, I think the overall, if you were to try to pick one of those themes, and again, when they were broken down into the either we're here for you or we care, or, we got this, we're strong, or that we're, you can count on us, we're clean and we're back. I would probably lean to we're here for you and we care, but that's just me. They talked about in one of these ads, they actually talked about one that they thought stuck out from Domino's, because we all know that Domino's delivers pizza, mm-hmm. but they did a whole ad around the fact that if you're unemployed and you're out of work, we're hiring.
Yeah. Great point.
And we
Great
need
point.
drivers, so that had nothing. So that had more to do with we're here to provide something and be helpful, and it happened to be Domino's Pizza. So I probably would go to the "We're here for you and we care." That's where I would lean to. But that was very much when I was at Subaru, the mantra anyway. It was very much we used to call it the Ben and Jerry's of car companies. It was very much about community and about people and the car as being part of your life. So I would probably do the care and we're here sort of thing.
You know, that answer is perfect, in my opinion. You know why? You get more mileage out of a campaign like that. It's not, we're here for you is a message that you can run now for the next 2 or 3 months, right? It's not specific to a point in time. Progressive can do that as well. They can keep playing off the cultural changes in terms of stylistically doing that Zoom thing or having fun with it. But it was a great topic, and I'm glad our listener brought it up because I've been puzzling about it for weeks. When I watch advertising now, I'm like, oh my God, there's millions of dollars of creative that they can't use, or they're going to use it and they're going to cringe because everything changes so rapidly now that what was the norm 4 weeks ago is no longer the norm now. And I don't mean to cast stones or anything, but let's say you're a tourist attraction down in Florida, and a month ago it looked like everything was fine and you could start putting out advertising, we're taking care, come visit, and then events overtake you, and now every dime you spent on marketing has literally just been, you might as well take a Bic lighter and
Well, I'm sure there are millions and millions, if not billions of dollars worth of advertising that has not run and probably will not run. That was either in the can or, the spring selling season is big for lots of brands.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you mentioned, resorts and all these other things, I'm sure there's probably a line longer than you'd want to be responsible for of advertising that's just not going to run. But to your point of the person, our listener, which won't give us his name, our listener in Fort Worth, if any of you out there do have ideas for topics for Shop Talk, or some of you have submitted business birthdays in the past or other sort of things, we do appreciate it. And we like you guys being part of the show, too. So be sure to send them along to letters@focusgroupradio.com.
You got it. And that's going to be the show for us today, folks. We hope you're enjoying a new format. Some people have missed the boys in the booth. We are brought together today by my inept ways, although I think we did a better job.
By John T. Nash Productions.
John T. Nash Productions. So, hey, a big thanks to joining us again. Remember to check out Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast, and always go to focusgroupradio.com to see all the latest shows, audio and video, learn about me and Tim and all our sponsors. And so, as we like to say, don't text and drive, arrive alive, have a great week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.